My life was nothing extraordinary. 6 years of marriage to Amanda had certainly seen their ups and downs, but I always thought we were solid. Perfect? Of course not. But I believed we were a team, ready to face whatever came our way. At least, that's what I thought. Over the past month, however, Amanda had been acting strangely. It started subtly. She'd laugh at her phone a little too much, spend hours getting ready for what she called errands, and stay out later than usual. At first, I didn't want to overthink it. I chalked it up to her being busy or simply needing time to herself, but something about it just didn't sit right with me. Whenever I brought it up, she'd wave me off. "You're imagining things," she'd say with that condescending tone that always made me feel small and foolish. Amanda was a master at making me doubt myself. I'd tell her I just wanted to make sure everything was okay, and she'd sigh like I was the most exhausting person in the world. "Everything's fine, stop overanalyzing," she'd add, with a quick kiss on my cheek before rushing out the door. Last Friday, Amanda told me she was going out for a girls' night. It wasn't unusual. Amanda had always been social, and I had no reason to question her. That evening, I decided to stay home, order takeout, and watch some old movies, just a quiet night to myself. But around 7 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mike, one of my friends. "Hey man, are you on your way? Amanda's already here, getting things set up." I stared at the message, confused. What was he talking about? I texted back, "On my way to what?" His response came quickly. "The party, bro. Your surprise birthday party. Didn't she tell you?" My heart sank. A surprise party? My birthday was in a few days, but Amanda hadn't mentioned anything about a celebration, let alone a surprise. Why wouldn't she tell me? Wasn't the whole point of a surprise party for the guest of honor to actually show up? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but my gut told me something wasn't right. Without thinking, I grabbed my keys and headed out the door. The drive to Mike's house was a blur. My mind raced with questions. Why hadn't Amanda told me? Was she really planning something special for me? Or was there another reason she didn't want me to know? By the time I pulled up to Mike's house, my hands were shaking. The house was packed. I could see shadows of people through the windows, hear the muffled sound of laughter and music. Taking a deep breath, I walked up to the door. I wanted to believe this was just a misunderstanding, that Amanda was inside, waiting to surprise me. But when I stepped inside, everything went quiet. All eyes turned to me, and the air seemed to thicken with tension. At the center of the room, standing too close to Jake, one of Mike's friends, a guy I'd never liked, was Amanda. Her arms were draped over his shoulders, and she was laughing at something he'd said. The moment our eyes met, her smile disappeared. Her face turned pale, and her hands dropped to her sides like she'd been caught red-handed. "Surprise," someone mumbled weakly from the corner. Amanda opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. The room was deathly silent. Everyone was staring at us, waiting for me to speak. And when I finally did, my voice was calm, but the words cut like a knife. "So, this is what you've been busy with." Her eyes widened in panic. Jake took a step back, suddenly interested in the floor. The tension in the room was unbearable, but I didn't care. I wasn't about to let her, or anyone else, control the narrative. "What's the matter, Amanda? Cack out your tongue," I asked, my tone sharp enough to make a few people flinch. And that's when everything started unraveling. The silence hung in the air like a storm about to break. Amanda's face was frozen in a mix of shock and guilt, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. She stammered, "I didn't expect you to show up." I finished for her, my voice steady but laced with anger. "Yeah, I figured that much." I glanced around the room, taking in the sea of awkward faces. No one dared to meet my gaze. They all knew. Jake, the guy she'd been cozying up to, took a step back, rubbing the back of his neck like he'd just been caught stealing from a church donation box. He didn't say a word, but his guilt was written all over his face. "Care to explain?" I asked, my eyes locked on Amanda. She hesitated, her lips trembling. "It's not what it looks like," she finally said, the classic line of every caught cheater in the history of mankind. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. "Not what it looks like, Amanda? I walked in here and saw you practically wrapped around him like a scarf. What exactly am I supposed to think?" She stepped closer, reaching out as if to touch my arm, but I pulled away. Her hand fell to her side, and for a moment I saw something flash in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or regret. But it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by the same defiance I'd seen in her so many times before. This isn't the time or place for this, she hissed, glancing nervously at the crowd. Let's go home and talk. I crossed my arms, unmoving. Oh, now you want to talk? Funny, because you didn't seem interested in talking when you were planning a surprise party without bothering to invite me, or when you were getting cozy with him. I jerked my head toward Jake, who looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Please, she whispered, her voice cracking. Can we just go somewhere private? I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on us, the whispers beginning to ripple through the room. Normally, I hated making a scene, but this wasn't normal, and I wasn't about to let Amanda control the narrative. You know what, Amanda? I think this is the perfect place, I said, my voice rising just enough to carry across the room. After all, everyone here seems to know more about this party than I do. Maybe they can help fill in the blanks. Gasps and murmurs erupted around us. Amanda's face turned crimson, and she clenched her fists at her sides. Stop it, she hissed through gritted teeth. Stop what? I shot back. Telling the truth? Because I'm done keeping quiet. I think I've been quiet for long enough. That's when Mike stepped forward, trying to play peacemaker. Hey man, maybe you two should take this outside, he said, raising his hands like a referee breaking up a fight. I turned to him, my glare sharp enough to make him take a step back. Did you know about this, Mike? Did you know my wife was planning this, whatever the hell this is? Mike's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. He looked at Amanda, then back at me. I just thought it was a party, man. I didn't know. Save it, I snapped. I wasn't interested in his excuses. My focus was on Amanda. She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and finally found her voice. You're blowing this way out of proportion, she said, her tone sharp and defensive. Out of proportion? I repeated, incredulous. You lied to me, Amanda. You told me you were going out with your friends, and instead, you're here throwing a party I wasn't even supposed to know about, and flirting with him. It wasn't flirting, she shouted, her voice breaking. You're twisting everything. Oh, really? Then what do you call it? I asked, gesturing toward Jake, because it sure as hell didn't look innocent to me. Jake finally found his voice, though he probably should have stayed quiet. Look, man, this isn't what you think. Amanda and I are just... Don't. I cut him off, my voice low and dangerous. Don't even try. He shut his mouth wisely, stepping back into the crowd. Amanda looked desperate now, her facade crumbling. Can we please just leave? She pleaded. We'll talk about this at home. Just you and me. But I wasn't done. Not yet. You want to talk? Fine, let's talk. I turned to the crowd, my voice steady and loud. Does anyone here want to explain what's really going on? Because I'm starting to think I've been the punchline of a joke I didn't know I was part of. No one said a word. The room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, but I couldn't tell if they were from guilt, embarrassment, or anger, maybe all three. She reached for my arm again, and this time I let her. Please, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Let's go. I stared at her for a long moment, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to storm out, to leave her there with her shame and her lies. But another part of me, the part that still remembered the woman I fell in love with, needed answers. Fine, I said finally, my voice cold. But this isn't over. And with that, we walked out the door, leaving the silent crowd behind. But I knew, deep down, that whatever happened next would change everything. The drive home was suffocating. The car was silent save for the hum of the engine and Amanda's shaky breathing. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles white, trying to contain the storm brewing inside me. She sat rigidly in the passenger seat, her arms crossed, staring out the window. She didn't say a word, and honestly, I was glad. I wasn't ready to hear her excuses yet. When we finally pulled into the driveway, I turned off the engine but didn't move. I sat there, staring at the dashboard, trying to gather my thoughts. Amanda shifted uncomfortably beside me. Aren't you coming inside? She asked, her voice small, almost timid. I glanced at her, my eyes narrowing. Oh, I'm coming inside. But you're going to do all the talking. I want to hear everything, Amanda. Every single thing. She swallowed hard, then nodded. Without another word, she stepped out of the car and headed inside. I followed, shutting the door behind me with more force than necessary. We stood in the living room, the air between us thick with tension. Amanda looked anywhere but at me, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her dress. I crossed my arms and leaned against the wall, waiting. Well, I finally said, breaking the silence. Start talking. She hesitated, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't decide where to begin. It wasn't what it looked like, she said at last, her voice trembling. I let out a bitter laugh, the sound sharp and hollow. You're seriously going with that, Amanda? I walked into a room full of people who all seemed to know more about that party than I did. I saw you draped over Jake like he was your personal safety blanket. So please, enlighten me. What exactly was it? She flinched at my tone, but stood her ground. It was supposed to be a surprise party for your birthday. I wanted it to be special. I didn't expect you to find out like that. I stared at her, my jaw tightening. A surprise party? I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. You mean the party you conveniently forgot to tell me about? The one where you were so busy being special with Jake that you didn't even notice I walked in. Her cheeks flushed, and she looked away. Jake and I, we're just friends, I swear. It wasn't anything inappropriate. I took a step closer, my voice dropping. Friends don't look at each other the way you two were. Friends don't stand that close, Amanda. So try again. The truth, this time. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy. She had manipulated me enough over the years, and I wasn't falling for it this time. Fine, she snapped, her voice breaking. Yes, Jake and I have been spending time together, but it's not what you think. I needed help planning the party, and he offered to. Cut the crap. I interrupted, my patience wearing thin. Do you think I'm stupid? That I can't see what's right in front of me? She froze, her lips trembling. For a moment, I thought she might finally tell the truth, but instead she doubled down. I swear nothing happened between us. He's just a friend, and you're blowing this out of proportion. I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest. Out of proportion, Amanda? I caught you red-handed, and all you can do is lie to my face. Do you even hear yourself right now? Her tears spilled over, and she shook her head. You're not listening to me. I didn't do anything wrong. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my voice steady. You didn't do anything wrong, Amanda. You lied to me. You hid this from me. You let me walk into that house and humiliate myself in front of everyone. And now you're standing here acting like I'm the bad guy for being upset. She sobbed, burying her face in her hands. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she whispered. I stared at her, my anger mixing with a deep, aching sadness. Then how exactly did you mean for it to happen, Amanda? Because right now, it looks like you didn't care how I felt at all. She didn't answer, her shoulders shaking as she cried. I turned away, running a hand through my hair, trying to calm the storm inside me. But the more I thought about it, the more the pieces started falling into place. The late nights, the secretive behavior, the way she dismissed my concerns. It all pointed to the same conclusion. Tell me the truth, I said quietly, my back still to her. Are you having an affair? Her sobs stopped abruptly, and the silence that followed was deafening. I turned to face her, my heart pounding. She looked at me with wide, tear-filled eyes, her mouth slightly open like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Well, I pressed, my voice breaking. Are you? And then, in the smallest, faintest voice, she whispered, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. My legs felt weak, and I stumbled back, gripping the edge of the couch for support. So it's true, I said, my voice hollow. You've been cheating on me. She reached out toward me, her face crumpling. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't want to hurt you. Stop, I said, my voice firm. Just stop. I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't want to hear how you didn't mean to destroy our marriage. Her tears came harder now, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I felt like my whole world was crumbling around me, and the person I trusted most was the one holding the wrecking ball. I stood there, staring at her, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. But one thing was clear, this was only the beginning. Whatever came next, there was no going back. The weight of her confession pressed down on me like a boulder, but I refused to let myself crumble. Amanda stood there, tears streaming down her face, waiting for me to say something, anything. But what was there to say? She had shattered our marriage, and now she expected me to console her. How long? I finally asked, my voice colder than I expected. She blinked, caught off guard. What? How long has this been going on? I repeated, my gaze locked on hers. Her lip trembled, and she looked away. A few months, she admitted, her voice barely audible. A few months? I echoed, shaking my head. So while I was here, trusting you, you were off with him? It wasn't like that, she insisted, her voice rising in desperation. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. Stop, I snapped, cutting her off. Don't insult me by pretending this didn't mean anything. You don't destroy a marriage over something that doesn't matter. She sobbed harder, her shoulders shaking. I don't know why I did it. I was stupid, okay? I wasn't thinking. I let out a bitter laugh. You weren't thinking, Amanda? This wasn't some one-time mistake. This was deliberate. You lied to me over and over again. You planned this. She opened her mouth to respond, but quickly shut it. For once, she didn't have a comeback, and that told me everything I needed to know. I turned away, pacing the room as my mind raced. The late nights, the secrecy, the excuses, it all fit together now. And the worst part? I had ignored my instincts. I had given her the benefit of the doubt when she didn't deserve it. Does he know? I asked suddenly, stopping in my tracks. She looked confused. Does who know what? Jake, I said, my jaw tightening. Does he know you're married? Or did you lie to him too? Her silence was answer enough. I laughed again, this time more out of disbelief than anything else. Unbelievable, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. She stepped closer, her voice pleading. Please, I'll end it. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Just don't give up on us. I turned to her, my expression hard. Fix this, Amanda? You can't fix this. You can't undo months of betrayal with a few tears and empty promises. Her face crumpled, and she fell to her knees, sobbing into her hands. But I didn't move to comfort her. I couldn't, not after everything she'd done. I stared down at her, my chest aching with a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to make her feel even a fraction of the pain she caused me. But another part of me felt empty. We'll talk tomorrow, I said finally, my voice devoid of emotion. I need time to think. She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. Please don't leave me, she whispered. I didn't respond. I just turned and walked upstairs, leaving her sobbing on the living room floor. As I closed the bedroom door behind me, I felt the weight of everything crash down. The betrayal, the lies, the sheer audacity of it all. And as I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, one thought kept repeating in my mind. How did it come to this? Morning came far too quickly, and with it, the crushing reality of what had happened the night before. I hadn't slept. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Amanda in that room with Jake. Saw the guilt on her face when she saw me standing there. Downstairs, I could hear movement, dishes clinking, soft footsteps. Amanda was trying to act normal, as if she hadn't detonated a bomb in our marriage. I stayed in bed for a while, gathering the courage to face her. When I finally walked into the kitchen, she was at the stove, making eggs. The smell turned my stomach. She turned when she heard me, her face lighting up with a flicker of hope that I was sure would fade. Good morning, she said, her voice tentative. I didn't respond. I sat at the table and stared at her, waiting. She hesitated, then turned off the stove and sat across from me. Her hands were clasped tightly on the table, her knuckles white. I know you're angry, she started. Angry? I interrupted, my voice sharp. Amanda, I'm way past angry. I trailed off, struggling to find the words. I don't even know what I am anymore. Her eyes filled with tears again, but I didn't care. I'd seen enough of those last night to last a lifetime. I don't know how to make this right, she said softly, but I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy, I'll block Jake, whatever it takes. Therapy? I scoffed. Blocking him. You think that's going to fix this, Amanda? You didn't just cheat on me. You lied to me for months. You humiliated me in front of all those people last night. And now you want me to believe you can just flip a switch and make it all go away. She flinched, but didn't argue. I know I messed up, she admitted. I was selfish and stupid, and I didn't think about how much it would hurt you. But I love you, and I don't want to lose you. I laughed bitterly. Love me? Is that what you call it? Because it sure didn't look like love last night. She leaned forward, her voice trembling. I made a mistake, but it doesn't mean I don't care about you. Please, just give me a chance to prove it. I stared at her, searching her face for any sign of the woman I thought I married, but all I saw was someone I didn't recognize, someone who had torn apart the life we built together and now wanted to sweep the pieces under the rug. Why him? I asked suddenly, my voice quieter but no less intense. She blinked, caught off guard. What? Why Jake? I repeated. Out of everyone, why him? She looked down at her hands, her face crumpling. I don't know, she whispered. He was just there. He paid attention to me, made me feel special, and I. Stop, I said, holding up a hand. I don't want to hear any more excuses. You felt neglected, so instead of talking to me, you ran to someone else. Do you even realize how pathetic that sounds? Her head snapped up, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of defiance in her eyes. It wasn't just about that, she said, her voice rising. You were distant too, you know? Always working, always tired. I felt like I didn't matter anymore. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. So it's my fault now? Is that what you're saying? No, she exclaimed, shaking her head. I'm not blaming you. I'm just trying to explain. I don't need your explanations, I interrupted. What I need is the truth, and so far, all I've gotten from you are excuses and half-truths. She fell silent, tears streaming down her face again. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the way she looked at Jake, the way she tried to downplay everything last night, and the pity evaporated. I need time, I said finally, standing up. Her eyes widened in panic. Time for what? To figure out if I can even look at you without seeing what you've done, I replied coldly. She stood as well, reaching for me, but I stepped back. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking, don't do this. Don't give up on us. I stared at her, my chest tightening. You already gave up on us, Amanda. I'm just trying to figure out what's left to salvage. And with that, I turned and walked out the door, leaving her sobbing in the kitchen. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing. I couldn't stay there, not with her, not yet. I drove aimlessly for what felt like hours, the road stretching endlessly in front of me. The early morning light blurred through the windshield, but I barely noticed it. My thoughts were a chaotic mess, replaying every moment from the night before, every lie Amanda had told, every warning sign I'd ignored. I pulled into a random diner parking lot, the kind of place where the coffee was always burnt and the waitresses called you Han. It wasn't home, but it was quiet, and right now, that's all I needed. Sliding into a booth, I stared blankly at the menu until a waitress came by. She was older, with a kind smile and tired eyes. What can I get you, sweetheart? Just coffee, I mumbled. She nodded and left me alone. As I sat there, the weight of everything started pressing down on me again. The betrayal, the humiliation, the lies. It was all too much. I buried my face in my hands, trying to breathe through the crushing sense of loss. When the coffee arrived, I sipped it absently, my mind still racing. Part of me wanted to call someone, anyone, just to unload everything. But who? My friends would either pity me or judge me. My family would probably say, I told you so, and honestly, I didn't want to hear any of it. That's when my phone buzzed. I pulled it out of my pocket and saw Amanda's name on the screen. My stomach twisted. I let it ring, watching her name flash across the screen until it stopped. Then came the text, please come home. We need to talk. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. What was there to talk about? She'd already said enough, and so had I. Still, a part of me, a stupid, hopeful part, wanted to believe she could somehow make this right. The phone buzzed again, another text. I love you. I made a mistake, but I want to fix this. Please, just come back. I clenched my jaw, the words blurring on the screen. Love. Mistake. Fix. She threw those words around like they could erase everything she'd done, but they couldn't. I shoved the phone back into my pocket and leaned back in the booth, staring out the window. The waitress came by again, refilling my coffee without a word. She must have seen the look on my face because she didn't ask if I needed anything else. I stayed there for a while, nursing the lukewarm coffee and trying to make sense of my thoughts. What was I supposed to do now? Could I even forgive her? And if I did, what kind of life would that be? Constantly wondering if she was lying to me, if she was seeing him again, if she was still betraying me behind my back. The truth was, I didn't know if I had it in me to forgive her, but I also didn't know if I had it in me to walk away. 6 years of marriage doesn't just disappear overnight. Eventually, I paid for the coffee and headed back to the car. Sitting behind the wheel, I stared at the empty passenger seat, imagining Amanda sitting there, smiling at me like nothing had ever happened. The thought made my chest ache. I needed answers. Real answers, not the excuses or half-truths Amanda had been feeding me. I needed to know the full extent of what she'd done, no matter how much it hurt. And I knew exactly where to start. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found his name, Jake. My thumb hovered over the call button, my heart pounding. I wasn't sure what I was going to say or how he would react, but I didn't care. He had a part in this mess, and I wasn't going to let him hide behind Amanda's lies. With a deep breath, I pressed the button. The phone rang twice before he picked up. Hello? His voice was hesitant, like he already knew who it was. It's me, I said, my voice cold and steady. We need to talk. There was a long pause on the other end. Then quietly, he said, I figured you'd call. Good, I said, because I want the truth. All of it. And if you lie to me, Jake, I swear I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are. Another pause. Then he sighed. All right, he said. Let's talk. I gripped the phone tighter, bracing myself for whatever came next, because no matter how painful the truth was, I needed to hear it. Jake agreed to meet me at a park just outside of town. It was quiet, far enough from prying eyes and ears. As I sat on a bench near the lake, waiting for him, I felt the tension in my chest grow tighter. This was it, the moment where I'd finally get the full story, or at least his version of it. When he arrived, he looked as uncomfortable as I felt. His hands were shoved deep into his pockets, his head slightly lowered, avoiding eye contact. Jake wasn't the kind of guy you trust with anything important, and yet here he was, entangled in my life in the worst way imaginable. Thanks for meeting me, he said, his voice low. Don't thank me, I replied sharply. I'm not here to play nice. I want answers, Jake. Start talking. He nodded and sat down on the bench across from me, keeping a safe distance. He rubbed the back of his neck nervously, glancing at me before looking away again. Look, man, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't mean for things to get out of hand. Out of hand, I snapped, leaning forward. You slept with my wife, Jake. That's not something that just gets out of hand. He flinched at my tone, but didn't argue. You're right, he admitted. I screwed up big time. But it wasn't like I planned for this to happen. Then explain it to me, I demanded. How does a married woman and her so-called friend end up having an affair? Because I can't wrap my head around it. He sighed heavily, leaning back on the bench. It started a few months ago. She was upset about something, work stress, I think. We ran into each other at a bar, and she started venting to me. I was just trying to be a good listener, you know? But things got blurry after that. Blurry, I repeated, my voice rising. That's your excuse? You were just being a good listener, and one thing led to another. I'm not proud of it, he said quickly. I knew it was wrong, but... He trailed off, his face contorting with guilt. But what, Jake? I pressed. Finish the sentence. You knew it was wrong, but you did it anyway because you didn't care about me or my marriage. He ran a hand through his hair, his leg bouncing nervously. It wasn't like that, he said. I didn't set out to hurt you, man. It just happened. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. That's such a cop-out, Jake. It just happened. That's the best you can come up with. He looked down at the ground, his shoulders slumping. You're right, he said quietly. I have no excuse. I was selfish, and I let things go too far. I stared at him, my anger simmering beneath the surface. How far, Jake? I asked, my voice cold. How far did it go? He hesitated, his jaw tightening. A few times, he admitted. We met up a handful of times. It wasn't serious. Not serious? I snapped. It's serious enough to destroy my marriage, Jake. Did you even think about that? About what this would do to me? I didn't, he admitted, his voice barely audible. I wasn't thinking about you or anyone else. I was only thinking about myself. His words stung, but at least they were honest. For the first time, I saw him for what he really was. A coward who couldn't control his impulses, who didn't care about the consequences until it was too late. Did she tell you she loved you? I asked, my voice quieter now. His head snapped up, and he shook it quickly. No, she never said that. She said it wasn't about love, that it was just an escape. An escape? I echoed, the word leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. From what? From me? From her life? He didn't answer, but his silence said enough. I stood up, pacing a few steps away before turning back to him. You know, Jake, I could destroy you. I could tell everyone what you've done, your friends, your family. I could ruin your reputation, just like you ruined my marriage. He looked up at me, his face pale. I know, he said quietly, and I wouldn't blame you if you did. I stared at him for a long moment, my fists clenched at my sides. Part of me wanted to lash out, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he'd caused me, but another part of me knew it wouldn't change anything. Amanda had made her choices, and so had he. I don't care if you blame me or not, I said finally, but don't think for a second that I'm letting this go. You'll have to live with what you've done, just like I have to live with the aftermath. He nodded, his head hanging low. I'm sorry, he said again, but the words felt empty. I didn't respond. I just turned and walked away, leaving him sitting there alone with his guilt. As I got into my car, I realized something. Jake might have played a part in this, but Amanda had chosen him. She had chosen to betray me, to break our vows, to destroy everything we had built together. And now I had to decide what to do with that truth. One thing was clear. The person I needed to confront next was Amanda. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. When I returned home, the house was eerily quiet. Amanda was sitting on the couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She looked up as I entered, her eyes red and swollen from crying. You talked to him, didn't you? She asked softly. I nodded, shutting the door behind me. I did. And now I want the rest of the truth. No lies, Amanda, no excuses. Just the truth. She inhaled sharply, her shoulders trembling. What did he tell you? That you used him as an escape, I said coldly. That it wasn't about love, that it was about whatever you felt you weren't getting from me. Her face crumpled, and tears spilled down her cheeks again. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she whispered. I didn't mean to hurt you. I crossed my arms, leaning against the wall. Then why did you keep going? Why not stop before it got to this point? She shook her head, struggling to find the words. I don't know, she admitted finally. I was selfish. I felt invisible, and Jake made me feel seen. But I never stopped loving you. I let out a bitter laugh. Loving me? Is that what you call it, Amanda? Love isn't sneaking around behind someone's back. Love isn't betrayal. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. I hate myself for what I've done, she choked out. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I stared at her, my chest aching with a mix of anger, sadness, and exhaustion. Sorry doesn't fix this, Amanda. Sorry doesn't erase the lies, the humiliation, the months you spent betraying me. She looked up at me, her face desperate. What do you want me to do? I'll do anything. I'll quit my job. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut off everyone who's hurt you. Just please don't give up on us. I took a deep breath, the weight of her words sinking in. I don't know if there's an us to save, I said quietly. Her sobs grew louder, and for a moment I felt a flicker of pity, but it wasn't enough to override the betrayal, the pain that had taken root in my heart. I need time, I said finally. Time to figure out what I want, because right now all I see when I look at you is what you've done, and I don't know if I can ever see past that. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Take all the time you need, she whispered. I'll wait. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I didn't respond. I turned and walked upstairs, leaving her sobbing on the couch. As I closed the bedroom door behind me, I realized that no matter what I decided, things would never be the same. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't trust. And the man I used to be? He was gone too. The days that followed were agonizing. Amanda gave me space, but her presence lingered like a shadow in every corner of the house. She avoided me unless absolutely necessary, but when our paths crossed, her eyes silently begged for forgiveness. I remained distant, lost in my own thoughts, replaying every moment of our marriage and questioning what had been real and what had been a lie. One evening, I found myself sitting in the living room, staring at the divorce papers I'd printed but hadn't signed. The words blurred together as memories flooded my mind. The day we took our vows, the time we spent building a life together, the laughter we once shared. But those memories were now tainted, overshadowed by her betrayal. Amanda walked in quietly, her hands trembling as she held a cup of tea. I made this for you, she said softly, placing it on the table in front of me. I didn't look at her. Amanda, we can't keep living like this. It's killing me. Her breath hitched, and she sat down across from me, clutching her hands tightly. I know, she said. I've been hoping you'd find it in your heart to give us a second chance, but I can see it's too late. Her words hit me harder than I expected. For a moment, I considered whether there was a path forward for us, but the wound she had inflicted was too deep, the trust shattered beyond repair. I can't, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Even if I wanted to, I'd never be able to trust you again. And without trust, what's left? Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't argue. She nodded slowly, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of her actions had finally crushed her. "I understand," she said. I want you to know that I'll always love you, even if I don't deserve your love anymore." Her words hung in the air, bittersweet and heavy. For the first time in weeks, I saw the Amanda I had fallen in love with, the one who was vulnerable and sincere. But it wasn't enough to change the reality of what she'd done. "I'm filing the papers tomorrow," I said firmly, sliding the unsigned documents toward her. "This is the end, Amanda. For both of us." She stared at the papers, her tears falling onto the table. After a long moment, she reached for a pen and signed her name. As she handed them back to me, her hand lingered for a second, as if she was holding on to the last thread of our connection. But when I took the papers, she pulled away, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I stood, the weight of finality settling in my chest. "I'll move out for now," I said. "You can stay here until we figure out the logistics." She nodded, unable to speak. As I walked out of the room, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Sadness for what we had lost, and relief that I was finally taking control of my life again. A few months later, I found myself in a new apartment, surrounded by unfamiliar walls and a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't easy adjusting to life without Amanda, but each day brought a little more clarity, a little more peace. I focused on rebuilding my career, my friendships, and most importantly, myself. I started therapy, not to fix what Amanda had broken, but to ensure I didn't carry the weight of her betrayal into my future. One day, as I was sorting through old boxes, I came across a photo of us from our wedding day. We looked so happy, so full of hope for the future. For a moment, I felt a pang of regret, but then I remembered everything that had led us here, and I placed the photo face down in the box. Amanda and I finalized the divorce a few weeks ago. She sent me a letter, apologizing one last time, saying she hoped I'd find happiness. I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because I knew we were better off leaving the past behind us. Now, as I sit here writing this, I realize that this isn't just the end of my marriage. It's the beginning of something new, a chance to start fresh, to build a life that's mine and mine alone. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. And that's enough.